this is Neena Perez, and this is Straight Talk, no sugar added. Thank you so much for watching. This show is created to discuss life topics, to challenge and transform your thinking. I am stoked because I have somebody here who I've been following and reading his book and looking at his website and listening to his podcast. And yes, he has a podcast that's Entrepreneur Dads, but I'm in there. I'm a fan. So his name is Jeff Lopes, and he is a proud father of two, a husband, a serial entrepreneur, right? So he's founded many companies, including True Blue Homes, which are vacation rental properties across the north part of Ontario, Canada, and Kimura Wear, a boxing and martial arts equipment brand. And he is the top-rated entrepreneurial podcast for Jeff Knows Inc. And his most amazing best-selling book, Entrepreneur Dad. I am reading it. I'm sorry, Jeff. I'm reading it. And it's the 7 keys to a successful business and a happy family life. So, Jeff, thank you so much for taking the time. I know it's a weekend, and I really, really appreciate you being here. How are you?
I'm doing amazing. And I want to first off tell your audience, I appreciate you. I appreciate you adding this platform. And these platforms are important because they spread the word and they allow individuals like ourselves that are entrepreneurs or people that are looking to get into the entrepreneurial space, information, education, and inspiration. So I appreciate it. And thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you. I wanted you to, if you can, I know I gave a little bio, but can you tell us a little bit more about yourself? I'd like our audience to always get to know you a little better.
Yeah, I've been an entrepreneur. I'm 44. I've been an entrepreneur for little past 25 years already. So the time flies.
Sure
you realize as you get older, you get to, I think is almost once I started passing my 40s, how you appreciate and how you look and value time so much more.
True.
So 25 years have gone by, like our entrepreneurs, we've gone ups, we've had downs. I always look at the column where we have more wins than losses, so we're on a good side. And I found it, I'm usually the guy that builds things and exits. I don't like holding on to things very long when it comes to business. So I get bored. I need change. I need different environment. But for some reason, Kimura Wear, I started it in January 20th, 2006. So we just passed our 15th anniversary, anniversary. And for some reason, I've kept this company. And it's we design, we manufacture boxing and martial art equipment, something I'm kind of passionate about. I've been always involved in martial arts, partaking as a participant for years and years. And the company has allowed me freedom to do so many other ventures. And some of those ventures, like we talked about prior, that you talked about, is True Blue Homes, where we have a portfolio of commercial vacation rentals right across Ontario. And we're in the process of building out a 16-acre cabin resort in a beautiful place called Muskoka. So it's allowed me to build all these different ventures and allowed me to just grow as an entrepreneur. So 15 years later, we're still doing that. And once the pandemic hit in March, it was a different mindset, because all of a sudden now my 2 main companies, Kimura Wear, which we wholesale to gyms, all the gyms had closed.
Right.
So it was just a shocker, right? So I had to really pivot really quickly and go more to B2C and go direct to consumer. I actually, instead of scaling back, I actually started flooding more money into the business marketing wise to get to a different level. And then when it came to True Blue Homes, the government shut down STAs, which is short-term accommodation. So all of a sudden we weren't allowed to rent. So once again, I had to find a loophole. So I found a loophole in the system where if people were misplaced from their homes, I was still allowed to rent for them. So we found different little loopholes, and we kept the businesses both flowing, but I had a little more time. And for the last 3 years, I've been coaching entrepreneurs. I've never charged a penny. I've taken 64 entrepreneurs under my wings, and it's been more of just a joy, and a learning experience, because I always knew coaching would be later on in my life. I didn't think it would be now. And it allowed me to gain this experience and knowledge and working with different individuals, different personalities, different levels of entrepreneurs. And I've grown some of them up to 7-8 figures. And through this whole process, I was like, now's the time to do this. So last March, I said, okay, in order for me to be a successful coach, as silly as it sounds, you have to brand yourself. Because if nobody knows who you are, you ain't going to get clients. So I took to social media to start branding myself. So I really, really focused on branding myself. And I really focused on building my social media out. I really focused on a podcast, which we've just recorded our 100th episode, which is pretty amazing. And since last March, and I thought I'm going to use my podcast as a networking. I used my podcast as a branding platform. And then I took pen to paper. I wrote my first book that had some kind of expertise to it. And at the same time too, I thought if I'm really going to dive into coaching, I want to get certified, even though it really doesn't mean nothing in the coaching world.
Right.
But I said, you know what, let me just add some little letters to my name. And I really went to a higher level international certification. I got certified as NLP, neuro linguistic programming. I got certified as a life coach. And then I built this whole back-end platform for entrepreneurial dads called A Man's Purpose. And the whole purpose of building this platform, and I was actually talking to somebody about this morning, was there's so many coaching businesses out there, and they charge thousands and thousands of dollars. And a lot of them, I'm going to be honest, I don't think are qualified coaches. And they've never really built nothing themselves. They've really never experienced life. So I said, I want to create a platform, and I want to really like change the whole outlook of how coaching is done. And I created this platform where it's less than $1. It's literally less than a coffee a day. It's 47 bucks a month. And we have group live coaching sessions once a week with myself.
That's great.
We hold you accountable with an on-track accountability program once a week. So it's just all this stuff, and it's for 47 bucks a month. So we package it really at an affordable rate. So that's me in a nutshell. So I'm a coach, author, podcast host, serial entrepreneur, and the thing I'm most proud of, and the thing I put at the top of my platform is proud dad. I'm a proud dad of 2 amazing kids.
Yeah, I was reading, like I can't put your book down, by the way. Very well done. Very well done. I'm reading your book and I'm crying at some parts and I'm jotting at some others and I'm taking quotes and putting them out there. It's like you're really full of knowledge, right? And I was very inspired by you. And even like in your very first business, I think you were saying it in an interview or something, how I think you were like security guard or something, or you had guys wearing jackets and being security guards. And I'm like, how did he think of that? Right.
Yeah.
So it's almost like, I wonder if entrepreneurs like you who've been, have you been entrepreneur always, or did you work for?
Never worked.
Never worked for
You
anyone.
got to realize when I was 16, 17, stock boy, stuff like that. But I first started my real company, which you were talking about there, at 17.
Wow.
And I ran that for about a year and a half till my parents were screaming at me because I was working too many hours with it. I ended up selling that company. Until this day, the gentleman that bought that company still runs the company. It's called Strictly Security Services.
Wow.
And so that was my first touch in it. Then I started college, and I was taking fitness in college, and I realized very quickly that I had to continue my entrepreneurial journey. I was 19, and I started a consulting company, a fitness consulting company, personal training company at that time at 19. And that's when it all kind of started from there on.
Wow. I just feel like there's something that some people are born with, right? I think that, I mean, yes, I think you can be trained and definitely coached and definitely given a different mindset, right, to do things, but you also have to have that tenacity and grit, right? I don't know if everybody's born to be an entrepreneur. What do you think of that?
You know, that's like the $1 million question. It's
right?
Something a lot of people debate about, and it's a lot of people question and ask. And it's something where my mindset on that, and everybody's different, my mindset on that is exactly what you said. You could coach somebody, you could give somebody all the tools, you could give somebody all the knowledge, but at the end of the day, they have to be the ones that are going to sacrifice themselves to get to that point. They're the ones that have to hustle to get to that point. There's the ones that have to wake up every day when that business is not getting the way they want or not growing at the speed they want. They're going to still keep doing it because they're looking at the end goal. And that is the biggest thing is most people quit. Why do most podcasts never last more than like 5 episodes on Apple iTunes? Right. It's just the way it is. People have this great idea, they have this thing, but once they realize how much work is involved, they quit. And that is the biggest area of failure for most people because they just don't have the drive and the hustle. Like I call it the 3 to 7, and I'm very passionate when I tell everybody this. I'm home from 3 to 7 every day. Monday to Friday, 3 to 7, I'm guaranteed home, and I call that family time. And I block that intentionally into my schedule. And that scheduled time is already in my schedule months in advance, 3 to 7. Everybody that knows me knows my phone's off, don't bother me, 3 to 7.
Right.
But I'm a super busy entrepreneur. And those 3 hours, they're valuable to me.
Right.
So I realized that for me to sacrifice myself to be home 3 to 7, to be with my family, I had to find another sacrifice to balance that out. So I'm up every day at 4:30, and
Right.
I don't like getting up at 4:30. Anybody that tells you they like getting up at 4:30 is full of crap. I'm up at 4:30 because I realize if I sacrifice myself in the morning, it'll allow me to be home in the evening and spend the time with my
Wow.
kids and be. I mean, I put this in my book, and I always tell, there's a stat out there as a parent, 90% of the face time we get with our kids is before the age of 18. And if you're aware of
Right.
that stat, and if you
Yeah.
do want to be an impactful parent and be a parent that's going to really, really change and build memories and build special times for your kids, you have a very short window. Like I look at my
Really
kids
do.
and they're 12 and 14. I'm like, where's the time gone?
Right.
So it's very important to be intentional with your time.
Mhm.
Um, Schedule is without me focusing and studying my schedule, there's no way I would be able to do all the things I do. So I intentionally block things into my schedule, and I know this time is blocked for this. If I go even over 5 minutes, I'm done with that. I'll figure it out tomorrow. So I intentionally focus on my schedule, study my schedule, and make sure I work on blocks on my schedules. Everything is balanced perfectly on my schedule.
Yeah. You were talking a lot about priorities and putting your priorities in order. And I was like, oh, where was this book like 10 years ago for me? My kids are now adults, right? I'm a
Yeah.
little older than you, but I had my kids very early, and they're adults. And now I'm more intentional. Like they call me every day. I have two boys, so they call me every day. They want to talk to me about their life and what's going on. And I literally stop everything I'm doing to make sure that I'm there for them, because it doesn't matter what age they are, right? But when I'm reading your book, I realize that there's a lot that can be pulled out of your hustle and your book and the way you put things, because you're right. I mean, I don't think there's anything more valuable in your life than what you're doing right now with that special time that you have. That's the time you see them grow. You can be there. Like, I love the story you put in the book about the Netflix, right? The Netflix wasn't working, so you were like, I was so tired, but I got up anyway to fix her Netflix, or her so she can watch Netflix. There was something that wasn't
Yeah,
working, her Wi-Fi or something.
yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, how many times have I said, I'm too tired, I'll do it tomorrow, you know? And I'm like, ah, but I am so proud of you. And I'm proud of the way you wrote this book, because you wrote it honestly, like you're just one of us, like you're just
But
dad, you're,
but that but that's who I am, right? That's
yeah, right.
I try to be as authentic, and that's the biggest negative thing. There's so many positives with social media,
Hmm.
but the biggest negative thing is people not being authentic.
Right. I
And
agree.
every single post I do, every single thing I do, I make sure it's authentic. If I don't feel it's authentic, I won't post it, I won't show it.
I'm the
And
same.
and that's because you could smell somebody's crap very quickly.
You sure can. I say
So
that all the
I
time.
think it's very important to be authentic. And something I want to bring back what you were saying there is I call it living without regret.
Mm,
And I think this is such an important lesson for everybody. And this is something I've learned not that long ago, just probably a couple of years ago, maybe even less, is I've always hear people say this, and it's a thing that is like a pet peeve that just bothers me when all of a sudden somebody's dad dies and they're like, I wish I had more time with him. I wish I had more one
mm,
day. And I know that guy, and I know he never called his dad. He never would go visit his dad. And
right.
I'm like, seriously, you're saying this now?
Right.
I go,
Right.
I tell everybody is do not live with regret. So I'll give you an example. Like
Mm,
my dad will call me up and say, oh, Jeff, I need help with this. Or Jeff, can you come do this? Or can you come see me for this? And in my head, in the past, I'd be like, yeah, Dad, I'll come see you on the weekend. I'll come do it on the weekend. Now, I will literally get in my car, stop everything, go do what he had to go see my dad or go take care of that. Because I do not want to, because I value the time and I value
right.
how age is creeping up, I don't want that moment where I get in my car and something happens to one of my parents or something
Mhm.
happens to a loved one. And then all of a sudden I'm like, I could have just went there to see him one more time. I do
Right.
not live your life as if today's the last day. That's the
Right.
easiest way to explain it. Do
Yeah.
not have regrets. You got something to do, do it. You want to start a business, do it. You got to spend time with
Oh,
your
so
family,
good.
do it. If
So
you
good.
live today as if it might be the last day of your life, and if everybody were to live like that, How many more successful people do we have in this world? How many more happier people do we have in this world? How many less regret do we have in this world?
Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest lesson is try to live, and it's hard sometimes, but just sacrifice yourself, because that extra little sacrifice is going to mean the world, because there's
Hmm.
going to be that one day when you're going to look back and like, oh, I'm so happy I did that.
Yeah.
And that'll
Oh,
change
so
every
true.
sacrifice.
So true. Such good knowledge. I was talking to an elderly lady. She was like in her 90s or late 80s. And I said to her, what is the one thing you regret in your life? And she said, the one thing I regret more than anything is not living my life for me and always living how everybody wanted me to live or what they expected of me. So I never did what I wanted to do. And I'm like, I won't do that. I'm not going
No.
to do, okay, I'm going to take that advice and that's not what I'm going to do, you know? So I agree with you like 1,000%. And I love that you're also instilling that in your children, right? I mean, I
100%.
was reading the story of your son. Is it Tiago?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I was reading the story about Tiago and you in the hospital with your wife and how you guys were there all the time. And I'm just like, you are so invested, right? You're so invested because I love the part of the story where you were saying that you realized that other parents weren't showing up. But even though that was a hard moment, you showed up. Your wife showed up, right? That that
You know
takes
what's crazy is to me that's just natural. Like,
right,
why would you not show up? And to give a
right.
little backstory to that for your audience, my son spent the first 4 months of his life at Sick Kids Hospital when he was born. We almost lost him and my wife when he was born, and for that 4 month period, we almost lost him 4 to 5 times. And he was
Wow.
diagnosed with CP, cerebral palsy, in that time frame. And I mean, there's a happy ending to that. I'll tell you guys in a second, but when we were at the Sick Kids Hospital, we were on the fourth floor, and we are very blessed in Toronto. We are one of the greatest, I think, is the top second best children's hospital in the world rated wise. And
Awesome.
we're on this fourth floor where the ICU, where it was the most intense room. So there's 6 beds in there, and it was a rotating. As sad as I'm saying, it was a rotating bed. Every couple of days, a baby
Oh,
would pass
wow.
away, and I would be there from morning to night, sitting next to my son's bed with my wife, and we wouldn't say nothing to each other. We just sit there and just spend time with him there, because we didn't know how much time we had left with him, because we were constantly being pulled into a room saying, "Hey, things are not working. Do you want us to pull the cord?" And we kept saying, "No, let's keep going. Let's keep fighting." And one day, one thing we noticed was we would never see other parents there. The other time a parent would come in, sit by the bed for a couple of minutes and leave, or come in for an appointment with the docs and then leave. And I looked at the nurse and I'm like, her name was Marianne. She was so great with my son. And I said, Marianne, like, where are all the parents? Like, do they come when we leave? Do they come on like, what is happening? So we're there 7 days a week. And she says, a lot of parents are so terrified of building a bond or a connection with their child, knowing they're going to lose their child, that they refuse to do that, and they don't show up. They only show up when they have to show up here. And I stood there and I was bawling. I'm like, how can you do that? You might only have a month. You might only have a week, might have only a
Yeah,
day to spend time with them. Why wouldn't you cherish that time?
right.
And she looked at me and she actually said, she goes, the difference is your son's gonna make it out of here. I feel like every time I talk about it, I feel like crying. Like, she goes,
I
your
know.
son's gonna make it out of
I
here.
cried for you.
She goes, your son's gonna make it out of here because you guys are here with him, and he knows you're here with him. And my son, when we finally got out of the hospital, he was only 4.5 pounds. He was 4 months old, four and a half
Wow.
pounds. The doctors didn't want to release him till he was 5 pounds. We kind of forced, we said, listen, we need to be parents. We need to take him home at this point. So we proved that we could take care of him. They put us in a room on the 6th floor for 3 days, no doctors. At that point, he was still on feeding tubes. So he wasn't even swallowing yet. So we had to bring a baby home, 4.5 pounds, 4 months old, didn't know how to swallow. So we had to teach him how to swallow,
Wow.
take care of him. We were just, and this is our second child, and the first child birth where everything was perfect. So it was just like, what are we going to do? And I remember when we came home that day, the next morning, I looked at my wife and said, the only thing I don't want to happen here is I do not want to wake up when I'm 6 years old and be like, I didn't give my son every single resource, every single opportunity to not be confined to a wheelchair, not to give him every opportunity to live. And that was when our journey started. And from that moment on, the next day, it was all about therapy, stretching, working out. We did everything, and we took everything as a
Wow.
huge win.
Wow.
So when he was a year and a half old and he was finally able to stand up and balance, huge win for us.
Oh
That
my
was
gosh.
like,
For real.
and then we ended up getting him to slowly start moving and walking and therapy and whatnot. And I used to spend hours a day on my hands and knees at a rec center by our house, just walking back and forth with him. And finally, we were able to prove that he could move and walk, where we convinced the doctors to put him on AFOs, which are braces. And we were told he'd be in braces up to his knees till he was about 19. Fast forward with working out. He's my workout partner. We work out 5 days a week. If you go to my social media, you'll see his pictures. And fast forward, prior to his 12th birthday, he's out of his braces and he's getting ready to run his first marathon this summer. So
Oh my gosh.
it's been this incredible journey, and it's been a journey where, like, I don't even think he realizes, he's still too young to realize how much he inspires me or how much he's taught me. He's just taught me way more than I've ever taught him. And it's been this incredible journey. So that's a nutshell of where a lot of the whole story was. And be honest, that's where my company True Blue's home started, because I didn't know the future of my son.
Right.
And I didn't know what was going to happen with him. And that being said, I was running this successful 8-figure company, Comorware, but at the same time, if something were to happen to me, I was still doing the day-to-day operations. I was still the face of the company. Something were to happen to me, that company would fall apart in 3-4 months.
Right. Right.
So in my head, I needed something more sustainable. So I thought, let me get properties that are bringing in steady income through rent. And if something were to happen to me today, my kids would be taken care of. And that's when the whole real estate started. And I started just literally, it's been to the point where, like, for the last 9 years, every year I buy a property, and I've been buying and just use them as passive income, right? So that's me in a nutshell. But going back to that, that part of the book, it was is I couldn't understand how parents would, that's essentially going back to living with regret, because every single parent there, I guarantee there's gonna be a moment in their life they're gonna look themselves in the mirror and be like, I regret not spending every second I had with my child.
100%. You know, I love the way you run your business too. I know I've heard you say this a few times, where you run it as a team, not a family, which is really smart. And there was also something, where you said, in order for my business to be sustainable, I fired myself from a lot of different positions. So you hired other, so smart. And I'm like, oh man, when I started my business, I had a kids cooking business. I used to go to people's homes and cook with kids and all that kind of stuff. And it was great, but I did everything, right? And so I got burnt out by like 5 or 6 years. I'm like, I'm done. So then I got a 9 to 5, which is where I am right now. But I know that in me, I am an entrepreneur at heart. Like I have to be doing something. I have to work and do something. Like I have to create. I have to, all that kind of stuff. So reading your book just kind of like inspires me, and it's really well done. I mean, go ahead.
Can I say something?
Sure.
We live in the digital age. You love cooking for children. Why wouldn't you create a platform for that? There's a need for that. There's a need for that.
Yeah, well, I guess there is. I mean, I think it's because I love it, but I love this more.
Yeah, but there's nothing wrong with. I'm a strong believer.
More?
I'm a strong believer in having as many passive incomes and as many sources of income as possible. Because when the pandemic hit, the people that relied on one income, that their business was affected, are all struggled. And there's a lot of them didn't know how to pivot. So having different forms of passive income, somebody will talk online. I'd be more than happy to sit down and give you some guidance. But having different forms of passive income as an entrepreneur is so valuable. So valuable.
That's good. You just put a little bug in my head, and that's good. Because you know what it is? I come from a little bit of a different background, right? We were always taught, or I should say we weren't really taught anything about money, right? But I always grew up saying, well, I don't want to live off of the system. I don't want to be somebody who lives off of the welfare system. So I had my son very young. I was 15 when I had my son. And I was like, okay, I'm entering high school, 15 years old, and I'm a mom, right?
Yeah.
What am I going to do? So I worked 2 jobs, finished high school, did what I had to do to take care of my child, right? But I wasn't going to be on welfare and collecting and get, that's just, it's not in me. I'm just not that person, So I grew up differently. So I've had a lot of struggles, and being that way, as I'm reading your book, I'm like, okay, it's time to like let go of like things that happen, things in the past, things that are holding you back. And hey, you're not promised tomorrow. So today is here. Do it today, and tomorrow will come whether I want it to or not. I don't know if I'll be here or not for tomorrow, but it's coming.
Yeah.
So what am I going to do to make it count? And I was reading your book, and a lot of that was like really resonating with me. And I'm like, I know, I was telling my husband, I said, I know that this is Entrepreneur Dad, and I'm getting actually a few copies of your book because I'm going to give them to a few men in my life. I'm like, but I should just erase this really quick and just put entrepreneur person, because
I
it is
love it.
so good. You were speaking to, I don't know if, you ever went out with the intention of reaching, women or other,
I mean,
yeah,
entrepreneur and parenting is universal, right? I mean,
yeah,
I like
yeah,
anything when you're starting a business, it's very easy to overexpand your audience and then
mhm,
want to pull from so many spots. And if you don't have an exact target audience, it's
yeah,
very hard to
yeah,
grow a business. So my mindset was, I studied parenting and fatherhood for 12 years. I've been an entrepreneur for 25 years. So it was me like, let me stick to a lane in a direct market that I'm comfortable with, that I know that
mhm,
it will respond. But reality is exactly what you said. Anything that comes to entrepreneurial parenting is global, right? It's not
right.
something that we have to think. So a lot of the message in the book work for any sex. So it doesn't matter who it is, right? I
Yeah,
want to
it
dive
sure
into one
doesn't.
thing you said there. I think is so
Sure.
important is not thinking of your past, living in the moment.
Mhm, mhm,
We all have to live in the moment.
yeah,
The minute we focus on the past is behind us. It's already past. You can't change
right,
it.
right,
The
right,
minute we understand that we can't change our past and the past is behind us, all you do is keep moving forward.
right,
You learn from the past, you
right,
understand the past. You might spend a minute or two or a day to reflect on what has happened and learn from it, but don't
right,
dwell in the past. You can't change it. Just learn from it and move on.
right,
That's all it is. Because a
right.
lot of people focus on the past, and I think that is
So
that is
true.
one of the biggest things with another thing with social media is a lot of people focus on the past with social media, and social media embraces and awards the victim.
Oh,
So
that's
somebody
so good.
loses a job,
Mhm,
and what happens? They post it on social media. I lost my job, and all these people are, I'm sorry. So now
mhm,
they're living
mhm,
off that moment, and they're going to live off that moment because now they're rewarded by their friends and their loved ones for that
right.
moment. But
So
if
true.
somebody puts a post, hey, I started my own business, they'll
You don't
get
get
2 likes.
anything. Yeah.
They'll get 2 likes. Oh, good job. And then everybody like, oh, they're gonna fail. They're gonna fail. So it's
Right.
it's it's constantly people get rewarded in our society for living in the past and being victims.
So
So
true.
live in the moment, focus on what you could change now, and just
Right.
keep moving forward. Who cares about the past? It's gone.
Right.
You can't do nothing about it. Just learn from it. If
So
there's something
true.
bad happens, just make sure you don't do that again. That's all it
Right.
is.
Yeah. So true, right? I mean, when you even think about just your story that you shared with us a little bit with Tiago, right?
Yeah,
If you would have taken that as at a victim mentality, he wouldn't have been where he is today.
of course not.
Because you would
Of
have been
course
a
not.
victim, and then you would have been sorry for him, and he would have been a victim, and when you do that, you just stop yourself from the growth. Your son is going to go run a marathon, for
Yeah,
goodness sakes, right? But if you didn't have that mindset of, I'm going to do whatever I have to do to inspire and push my child to know that he can be better than where he is right now,
yeah,
then he would have been stuck there, right?
yeah,
And I think that that happens to us as we're growing up. If we have parents that don't inspire us and don't push us forward, it takes us a little longer to get there.
yeah, yeah,
But
100%.
once you start to work it, and that's why I think your book spoke so much to me, because yeah, you're an entrepreneur and a very successful one, but you're also extremely good at teaching. Like you said, you took parenting, you said, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
didn't take parenting
you
courses. I
studied, you
literally read.
studied.
I would call it indirect mentoring. I just read books and read books
Yeah,
and videos and YouTubes, and I just tried to learn as many different tools that I could apply into my day to day life.
yeah,
That was
because you
what it
cared
was.
about it. You
Of
cared about it.
course.
Yeah. And that's amazing. And I think it would like really speak to everyone if they would just do that, right? Even if you just read one book to show you the value of your child and the value of what they mean. See, dads to me are always very special. I didn't have a father really. So to me, you know, my husband's a great father. So I'm like, I look at all that. I look at how he encourages and how he loves his kids. I mean, they're all adults, but you know, he's there for them. You know, if they need something, he's on a plane flying out to do whatever he has to do. And I'm like, you know, fathers make their daughters feel like they're worth it, you know, and they make their sons inspired to be better.
Yeah.
Right. So I know I love mothers because I'm a mom, but
Yeah.
there's something about a dad. There's just something about a dad, you
Yeah.
know?
I mean, the mom's always I mean, and just in general, how we view parenting. I mean,
Hmm.
usually the mom's the nurturing, loving one. The
Hmm.
father is the educator, the teacher, right? So that's just the way. I mean, roles have changed so drastically in the last decade of parenting, but in
Yeah.
general, that is what our history shows us, right? So as a dad, you're trying to put your children in a situation where they are learning and developing and growing, and you're trying to put them in the right frame that they're not going to make the mistakes that you made. And I
Right.
think that's very, very important, right?
So is that why you decided to do your business or your podcast, I should say, as an entrepreneur dad? Like you're really
So
trying to reach
yeah,
into
no. So
fathers? Yeah.
my podcast is entrepreneur period. It's not entrepreneurial dad.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I thought it
yeah.
was just focused on men. Okay.
No, no, just entrepreneurs in
Okay.
general. So it's just entrepreneurs in general. The man's purpose and the coaching business and all that is essentially entrepreneurial
Oh, it's
dad.
separate. Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, it's totally,
Got it.
totally, 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 totally separate thing.
Okay.
And it's just I just love having conversations with entrepreneurs. Like we're doing right now. Like I
Yeah.
just I enjoy having conversations with entrepreneurs. I think that's so, so special, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And you do a great job, by the way, in your podcast, because I actually thought they were connected because when you have these conversations with your guests, it's so intimate, right? And a lot of them are sharing like really vulnerable things that
Yeah.
they're going through in your podcast. And I'm like, wow, you are a master. I don't know how you I don't know how you just said you just started podcasting. That is BS. You've been doing this for centuries. How do you like it,
You know
by the
what?
way?
It
Are
just
you
has
enjoying it?
it's enjoying having conversations, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
as you evolve and as you if you I always say this, if you have a passion for something,
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna do well at it.
That's
That's
good.
the
That's
golden
good.
ticket for a business, an entrepreneur, is find something that you have a passion for.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of people will turn to a business and say, I'm gonna find a need or a want in the market, which
Mm-hmm.
is extremely important to make a business be successful. But if you don't have
Right.
passion for it, if you can't wake up every day and be excited to do it, it's going to
It's
fail
not
over
gonna
the
do
long haul.
anything.
No,
Yeah.
it's not. You have to be able to wake up and be like Monday. It's not, oh, it's Monday. It's Monday. Let's go. We're starting the
Yeah.
week.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to have that excitement. You have to have that joy. And the minute and that is why, as a serial entrepreneur, um, I've always been in a situation where in the past I'd build and sell, build and exit, because I would build something really quickly. And then the minute I would lose a little passion for it, I'd be like, okay, boom, next, let's start again.
Oh,
So
that's
more
good.
has been one
That's
of
good.
so that way you're constantly feeling driven to do something, right? So you're
Right.
constantly set new priorities, new goals, new stuff. So having that passion is so valid when you want to actually build something properly.
Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna be letting you go soon, although I don't want to. I have a question.
100%.
How do you mentor or coach anybody, a man, woman, doesn't matter. But how do you coach an entrepreneur that is passionate about something but fearful and maybe struggling with the financial part of it? Like how do you kind of help them understand that they should be following that passion?
Okay, there's so many layers to that, right? So
Right.
fear, I'm going to break fear into something. If you got a couple minutes, I'm going to break fear into something
Yeah,
totally
of
different.
course.
So
Hmm.
fear is something that a lot of parents could actually intake with this is, and I put this in my book, and something I'm very passionate about is fear is not something we're born with. We have to first understand that.
Yeah,
Fear
that's
is
good.
something that we were taught as children, and you always hear it with your mom, like, don't touch the oven, you're gonna burn your hand, don't run down the stairs, you're gonna fall. That's
Yeah.
something that's instilled in us. And as we get into school, you see another kid being fearful to do public speaking, you get scared. You start building these fears by your
Mm,
environment. And that's something for parents to actually understand. And from young age, if you could break that fear and put your children in uncomfortable situations where when they break through, they succeed and they're rewarded for succeeding,
That's
that
good.
fear stops breaking from a young age. So when they get to they become teens and they become, I'll give you an example. I think, I don't even know if I put this in the book or not, but did I put, I can't remember. But my daughter came to me a couple of years ago, and she had to do a public speaker in front of her school, in front of her class, and she was so scared to do this speech. And I was like, okay, what fears? And she goes, I'm so worried of how my peers are going to react. And she was in grade 7 at that time. And I said to her, see, I go, okay, we're going to practice this. We're going to study it. We're going to learn it. And every night I would make her do her public speaking in front of me and my wife and her speech. And when she got it down packed, I said, you're ready. And I spent about a week and a half building her confidence up. So she went, she did it. She won first in her class. So she now was able to present in front of the school. So now the next fear. So we broke that fear. She presented her school. She won. Now she's going to represent her school to the board. She went to the board. She won the board. Now she's going to the province. So out of 1,750 kids, she finished 3rd. And that was from 4 weeks before. She was shivering, thinking she had to talk in front of a group of 20 kids.
Right.
So it's all about breaking those fears. Now this kid will talk. My 14-year-old will talk in front of 100, 200 people like nothing now. So it's breaking those fears. So I think the first thing is understanding and making the entrepreneur realize that no one, in the end of the day, if they succeed or don't succeed, it's not going to change anybody else's life.
Right.
It's just their own. So they got to focus on themselves and break the fear. Break the fear. That's the first thing. Second thing, when it comes to finances, there's different levels of finances, right? If you're working full time and you have children, you have stuff, you're not going to quit. I would never tell somebody to quit their job to start a business when they have other responsibilities. So now that comes to what I talked about, sacrifice. You really want to be an entrepreneur? You know, you have to put food on the table for your kids. You got to pay. You got to keep the electricity on. That's responsibilities that you have to maintain. So now, guess what? You're going to be working from 9 to 11 every night, or you're going to be up at 4:30 every morning. Finding the sacrifices and finding ways to make those sacrifices work towards a business. So first is breaking the fear. Second is finding what areas of your life you're going to sacrifice to get there.
Good. Yeah.
And then when it comes to financing, it's also sacrifices. How much money you're spending on junk? How much money are you spending on coffee? What can you cut out of your life to save an extra amount of money? So now I could build a website, or I could do this. So figuring out, looking at your finances and figuring out where, being practical. I mean, you could start a business on a bootstrap budget. Like you could start a business and be successful, because we live in an age where digital social media gives you a platform where you could do a little video and go viral, and within minutes you have this big audience. It's being creative, learning how to sacrifice your time, learning what things in your life you can sacrifice out that you don't need, and just living in the moment, not being fearful or caring or giving I always tell people, don't give a shit what people think about you. The minute you could focus on yourself and not care what everybody else is going to think of you, you're going to succeed.
Yeah, there's a freedom to that.
Yeah, when it comes to business, I mean, I could get into practical, and I could say, you got to do this, you got to brand this, you got to figure your colors, your Pantones, your feelings, your mission statement. None of that matters. What matters first is, are you willing to sacrifice yourself? Are you willing to sacrifice taking things out of your life that shouldn't be there? Are you willing to put yourself, this is another great one, surround yourself around people that want to be who you want to be.
Yeah. I always like to say too, that I always want to be in the room with people who are smarter than me and doing better than me.
Always.
I always that's why I love this conversation, right? Because you are you inspire me a lot to keep hustling and keep moving forward to be the best version of myself. Right. And so before I let you go, can you just tell us how we can find you? Because first of all, your program, I can't believe it's even that low in price. I didn't realize that. That's pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah.
But it's full of like, you know, I mean, like I said, I follow your podcast and I read your material because I really do believe in what you're saying. I mean, it's good stuff. And I like that you don't sugarcoat things. You kind of just say it how it is, you know, and I like that. I mean, the show is called Straight Talk, No Sugar Added, right? So of course I like that. But give us your website and how we could find you on out there in the social media world.
Yeah, social media world. Like I'm on all the platforms, but I mean, I pretty much stick to IG, Instagram. You can catch me
Oh,
at
okay.
Jeff Lopes, JFFLOPS. That's primarily where I focus on, because the social media world, you get very lost very quickly.
Yeah.
And so I primarily focus on that. And if you're a dad out there, an entrepreneur, in like, I can't stress this enough. Like you're gonna get more coaching than any one-on-one program.
Yeah.
And I'm putting it at the point where I want to help millions of dads over the next few years. I want to get dads into financial freedom. I want to teach dads how to value their time and value wealth as freedom. I want to teach you how to build memories with your family. I want to teach you all the tools I've learned over the last 12, 14 years. And I put it at a platform, like I said, it's at $47 a month. Like I wanted it so nobody would it wouldn't be a stress on you financially. Because you know how it is with the coaching world. You can spend thousands and thousands of dollars and they sit with you in a room and they're going to give you hocus pocus about all this life coaching stuff. I'm very practical. You come to me and I'll be like, Jeff, I need to build a website. Okay, let's do this. If I can't help you, I am so networked, I'll make sure I pass you to somebody that can help you on the spot. And that's all it is. Like I had a young gentleman reach out to me the other day, and he's got an incredible story, wants to write a book, and couldn't. He's actually in I don't even want to give detail on it, but he went to a couple publicists and they wanted to hire a ghostwriter. They were charging $1.50, $2 a word. It would have been about $40,000 to write this book. And he came to me and he's like, Jeff, I need your help. What should I do? Should I hire this? I literally, within a day and a half, got all my contacts. I found a copywriter or a writer that just finished school that was looking to build his name, connecting them both. Now that he's getting his book written for free. So there's so many ways, and people don't understand the points of networking. And that's another part of my program is I force you every single week to network with 3 individuals in your field. And I also force you to network 2 other people together. I think that's another thing that's very important is if I network you to another entrepreneur and you guys become best friends and start a business together, who's your anchoring point? It's always me. So the networking aspect of business is so crucial. And I think a lot of people don't take the time to do that. So that's one part of the course also. So we hold you accountable weekly. I make sure you network. I network for you and I help build, whether it's business, family, I help build what has to be built. And it's all for $47 a month. It's not even the money, it's about helping as many people as we possibly can.
Oh, that's
and to get there, it's called jeffreylopes.com, JFFREYLOPES.com.
Jeff, you are the bomb. Honestly.
I appreciate this. And I appreciate
this is so fun. I'm glad you came on. I'm really glad you took the time. I know you're in Canada and you're in your home and stuff instead of your office. And I totally appreciate you taking the time to talk to me because, you know, you're someone, since you booked the date on the calendar, I have been waiting for this day. I'm like, I was upstairs dancing. My son is like, what's wrong? I said, I'm interviewing Jeff Lopes. He's like, oh, the book? Yes, the book. So thank you guys. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate your time. And guys, I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you. This is Straight Talk, No Sugar Added. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Make sure you go on there, click that little bell notification so you don't miss a video. And don't forget our podcast. Until next time.
4:30 wake-up call every morning is all worth it. It's all worth it because I'm able to be home from 3 to 7 every night and be present with my family. There is no overnight success, guys. Success can be defined by what you're doing when no one's really looking. It's my purpose as a coach to reframe the minds of men and make them understand. It's not, I gotta pick up my kids from school. It's, I get to pick up my kids from school. It's not, I gotta be home for dinner every night. It's, I get to be home for dinner every night. Once you truly understand how reframing your mind will create this purpose in your life, The moment you guys understand that is the moment you're going to stop living with fear. Fear of failing as a father, fear of failing as a husband, fear of failing as a business owner. My opportunity as a coach is to teach men to not live in constant fear of failure. Fear is not something you're born with. We have to break the fear and see everything as challenges. I want you to view this as opportunities to grow. We only live one life. Redefining our understanding of happiness and success is just going to clarify our purpose as a man.